say a few words about where we are, whatever that might be, and then we'll see what Spirit directs.
And the cloister where we're going to go is one of the oldest of France. You know, first the whole area was started 100 years before Notre Dame in Paris, so 1063, and the cloister 1100, and you've got 76 capitals and 116 little colonnades. And it was a place where the monks, you know, used to read the Holy Scriptures and they were meditating. Okay, so let's go to the cloister. You know, the Benedictine, they had a rhythm of 8-8-8, 3 times 8 hours, 24 hours a day. And remember what Sister said? You had to share your time between the prayer, the work, and the intellectual work. Okay, and they selected also the people according to their gifts, because if they saw that somebody knew how to draw, how to make illuminatings, those one would spend more time, and you know, in the workshops. That's why it was so big, you know, over there, because you had fantastic workshop, and usually the workshop was the place, the unique place where you had fireplaces to warm up your fingers to be able to paint. But they were very rich. They had windmills, property. So the ones who were stronger, those one could have more meat than the other ones. By the way, during the lunch, you know, and the dinner, and those one they could work and go outside. But they gathered here because that's where they prayed. That's where they came back to the center. That's why you have that shape of a square. So it was a meditation place. But be careful nevertheless, because during the Middle Ages you could have also cloisters, more public cloister, where were buried, you know, ordinary people with no money. And in that case, you had the common grave in the center, and you had a cloister with very often a decoration of the dance of death around. So it was a kind of first cemetery. Okay, and when the bones were bleached, they gathered them in boxes that they fit in the ceiling. But that's the 2 types of cloister you might see in the Middle Ages. But here you are in a Benedictine abbey, so that's a meditation place. And do you know how to wake up in the morning? Because in the summer, they had to get up with the sunshine at 3 a.m. So there was one monk, you know, designed to wake up the other ones. But this one, he used a rooster to do that. And remember, the sister mentioned the law of the rule of silence. So they developed also, they had beehives. So Han will be happy. They had beehives because they used the honey, but they used also the wax. They hung like a piece of wood, you know, at their belt, covered with wax. And they could, you know, when they wanted to communicate, they could make drawings on that. Or they developed also signs like, you know, I want to drink or whatever, to communicate but keep the silence. And also in the refectory, which was that way, you know, they had to eat in silence as well. But you had one of the monks who had to read something, Holy Scripture, while the other ones were eating.
Okay. Well, I do have a few words I can share with you, but maybe you want to find your place. So you could also use it as a place for silence meditation. So we'll stay here a bit. So one of the advantages of being in the place is that the vibration that's been put into the land, that the land itself can be magnetized or vibrated to what its purpose is, and you know, that has all kinds of dimensions. You know, that the earth is going to do what it does naturally, so that there's the natural elements of what's in the place. And when people gather, that creativity that extends over time, you know, over what people do, that also becomes part of the vibration that we can pick up. So I noticed that Corinne was saying some of the cloisters were different, so that they were more like cemeteries or places that people were allowed to come, but not necessarily for the purpose of worship, which I would see as it was here for maybe 1,000 years, however long. And I'm sure in some way maybe it was before that, before the great buildings were constructed, that for whatever reason, including that it was referenced as the beginning of one of the ways of the pilgrimage for St. James, or what they call Santiago as well. That's in Spain, quite a ways from here. I'm sure at least 500 miles, because that's the number that I've heard often. In any case, we can take advantage of that attunement of being in the place, and that we once again bring our light here, our blessing that comes through the Christ and the traveler consciousness with us now, that we would extend that blessing into the earth. So however you are connected to the earth right now, and you're part of that blessing. And through our creative imagination, we can see it extending into the center of the earth. So it's part of the vortex that the earth turns on an axis. It also moves in constellations. So it moves in relation to the sun, and then it moves in relation to the solar system in its own pathway. So it can get quite grand in the dimensionality of what's going on here while we're here. And thank God we can make it simple in some way of just being in a place of rest, a place that often addressed what we could discover in the silence. So that became part of the practice of a cloister, often was to be in silence, to have a dedication of silence. By now, I would hope that you experience the grandeur of the tree that's out there. It is a grand tree. So it has quite a story. I'm sure it could tell some things about what has been here and witnessed, but that makes it magnificent for me to be here just to see that tree, and how great it is and what it has become and endured. Maybe it's the reason why the train didn't take out the whole cloister or something like that. The tree itself said, no, you're not going to do that. I've been here longer than you. We also have prepared a moment with JR that is one of the great experiences of my life. It's from the first Pat 4 in 1984 at Luxor. I've told the story quite a few times, but it's worth telling again. On that particular trip, I was very involved with the planning, and we really didn't know what we were doing. And at least I didn't know what I was doing. So the idea was to go to the Holy Land with a group of devotees. I think Chair actually used that term. People that had been studying in MSIA for a while, and in some way were prepared to go and do what we would do when we came to the Holy Land, which was to, in some way, bring peace, bring blessing. There's the train. And maybe we can bless that vibration as well. And then as we planned the trip, the tour operator, I still remember, like, he just kept coming up with more ideas, and I think in any case, the idea that how much money he could maybe make by extending the trip. But we ended up going to Oberammergau in Germany, which was not part of our plans, you can imagine. We were going to go to Israel and Egypt, so how did we get to Germany? Well, Henry of Aachen proposed that, and Jared said, okay, and then come to Rome, and then there was all kinds of things about deals he could get on Alitalia, so yeah, we got to go to Italy because we'll get a good deal on the flights. In any case, what started out as something like a 2-week trip ended up being 5 weeks. And I think the first 2, at least, were in Germany and Italy. And we went to Rome, and we went to the Vatican, and we were there for a papal visit, you know, where he comes out on the balcony and blesses all who are present. And during that time, what I remember is we kept inviting Jared to do some form of sharing or talk or anything like that, and he kept basically saying no. And then we started wondering what was going on and talking to people in the group, like, you know, would you like to just consider that we're on a spiritual focus and maybe refrain from, you know, whatever, alcohol, sex, whatever else, you know, get along better with your wife, you know, all kinds of things, just to see if we could get Jared to talk. And even within the staff, it was like there was a lot of like, are you doing something that's not clear? You know, all that kind of thing. Well, finally he talked, and that was at Luxor Temple. It's a very short talk, but it was like something burst into our group in a very powerful way. And I also experienced it as a form of a light study, if you've heard about that and wondered what a light study is like. I considered he kind of did a group light study, and it's only about 8 minutes. Here we go.